What happens when kindness meets cruelty? In a cafe. This is the incredible story of Keanu Reeves stepping in when an elderly woman was humiliated for simply asking for food, but there's a twist that will leave you speechless. Before we continue, let us know where you're watching from. It was one of those rare moments when Keanu Reeves found himself in need of a break from his usual schedule. He wasn't filming or attending a meeting today. He just wanted some peace and quiet. He wandered into a cozy little cafe in the heart of the city, its atmosphere warm and inviting. The soft murmur of conversations around him was calming as he took a seat at a small corner table by the window. Keanu enjoyed the solitude, sipping his coffee and watching the world outside. As he sat there, his mind wandered, the weight of his busy life making him crave moments like these. But what happened next would change the course of his day and perhaps his perspective forever. His eyes drifted toward the counter where an elderly woman was standing, clutching a worn-out bag. She looked fragile and out of place in the bustling cafe. She hesitated before she stepped forward and asked the young waiter behind the counter, her voice barely audible, "Excuse me sir, could you spare something to eat? I haven't eaten in days." The waiter looked her over with a mix of annoyance and indifference. "Is this some kind of joke?" he scoffed, crossing his arms. "This isn't a soup kitchen, lady. You're in a restaurant, not a charity." The woman flinched at his harsh tone, her face turning red with embarrassment. She didn't have the strength to argue. All she could do was whisper, "Please, I'm so hungry, just something small to eat." The waiter's eyes narrowed and he sneered, "You don't have money, so you're wasting my time. Get out of here." His voice rang out loud enough for the other customers to hear. Keanu, who had been quietly observing, felt a deep sense of discomfort. He watched as the woman's shoulders slumped and her hands trembled. In shame, she stood there for a moment, as if not knowing what to do next. Before turning slowly to leave, Keanu had seen enough. Something inside him stirred. This wasn't right. The elderly woman had been treated like she was invisible, like she didn't matter. Keanu wasn't going to let that slide. He stood up from his table and walked over to the counter. "Hey," he said, his voice steady but firm. "What's going on here?" The waiter looked up, clearly irritated by the interruption. "It's none of your business," he snapped. Keanu didn't back down. "It is now. This woman asked for a meal and you treated her like dirt. You don't know anything about her and you have no right to talk to her that way." The waiter scoffed, still dismissive. "Who are you to tell me how to do my job? I'm someone who believes in respect." Keanu replied, his eyes locking with the waiter's. "People deserve to be treated with kindness no matter who they are or what they've been through. You've got no idea what this woman's story is." The waiter, sensing he couldn't win this argument, fell silent, but Keanu wasn't done yet. He turned toward the woman, his tone gentle. "Ma'am, please take a seat. You don't have to leave. I'll make sure you get something to eat." The woman, stunned, looked up at him, her eyes wide with disbelief. "But I don't have any money," she whispered, her voice breaking. Keanu smiled softly. "Don't worry about that." He reached into his wallet and pulled out several bills, placing them on the counter in front of the waiter. "Get her whatever she wants and don't make her feel bad about it. She's not here to beg for pity. She's here because she needs help." The waiter hesitated, clearly caught off guard, but after a moment he reluctantly took the money. He didn't say another word, but the air between him and Keanu felt different. Keanu turned to the woman, offering her a seat at his table. "Please join me. You don't have to eat alone." The old woman, still in shock, slowly sat down across from Keanu. The atmosphere was different now, calm and comforting. Keanu didn't rush her. He simply sat there, letting her take her time. They ate in silence for a while, but Keanu couldn't shake the feeling that he needed to understand her more, to connect with her beyond the surface. He had always believed that everyone had a story, a past that shaped who they were. Finally, after a few bites, Keanu spoke gently. "If you're comfortable, could you tell me your story? What brought you here today?" The woman hesitated, glancing down at her plate as though unsure whether to share her pain, but then slowly she began to speak. She wiped a tear from her cheek, her voice cracking as she spoke. "It wasn't always like this. I had a family Once my husband, 2 children, we lived in a little house just enough for us. We were happy, but then my husband got sick. Really sick, we couldn't afford the medical bills, but I tried my best to keep us afloat. Eventually we lost the house. The woman paused, taking a shaky breath before continuing. My children grew up, moved away, and they never came back. I tried to keep in touch, but life got in the way. I lost them too, and now I have nothing. I don't have a home, I don't have a family. I'm just trying to survive one day at a time. She stopped, her voice thick with emotion. I never thought I'd end up like this. I thought I had more time, more chances, but here I am begging for food. Keanu listened in silence, his heart heavy with compassion. He had known the struggles of life too well. He'd seen pain, loss, and hardship firsthand, but this woman's story, the way it echoed with years of quiet suffering, struck him deeply. Before he left, Keanu stood up and turned to the woman, offering a warm smile. If you ever need anything at all, please don't hesitate to reach out. You deserve to be treated with dignity. The woman, her heart swelling with gratitude, nodded. Thank you so much for everything, sir. You've made me feel like I matter again. Keanu smiled gently. You do matter more than you think. After a brief pause, the woman looked up at him with curiosity. I'm sorry, but what's your name? Sir, you've been so kind, and I never even asked your name. Keanu paused for a moment before responding. My name is Keanu. The woman's eyes widened in disbelief. Keanu Reeves, she whispered. Astonished, Keanu nodded, his expression calm but warm. Yes, that's me. The woman, still in shock, shook her head in amazement. I can't believe it. I've seen your movies. I watched them when I was younger. I just didn't recognize you. I'm sorry, age has a way of changing things. I guess you were much younger then. Keanu smiled softly, understanding the confusion. It happens, we all change over time. The woman, overcome with a mix of emotions, said, I never imagined I'd meet someone like you. You've given me more than just food today. You've given me hope. Keanu nodded. I'm just glad I could help. Remember, no one is ever truly invisible. The waiter, who had been silently observing the entire exchange, was now filled with a deep sense of respect for both Keanu and the woman. He knew this moment would change him forever. The cafe returned to its usual rhythm, but the events of the past few minutes had left a lasting impact. The waiter stood silently at the counter, his mind racing as he processed everything he had just witnessed. He had watched Keanu's kindness, the way he treated the woman with respect, and how he had not only paid for her meal but shared a moment of genuine human connection. He had heard the woman's heartbreaking story, and something inside him shifted. For the first time he felt a pang of guilt for how he had treated the woman earlier, for dismissing her with such coldness. He had acted based on assumptions without considering that everyone had their own struggles, their own story. After a few moments of reflection, the waiter couldn't stand by any longer. He walked over to Keanu and the woman's table, his head down, a sense of shame in his posture. Excuse me, I owe both of you an apology, he said softly, his voice sincere. Keanu looked up, his expression calm. It's all right. What matters is that you understand now. The waiter nodded, swallowing hard. I judged her, and I was wrong. I saw someone in need and assumed the worst. I didn't treat her like a human being. I treated her like she was invisible. The woman, still sitting at the table with Keanu, looked at the waiter, her expression softened. It's all right, we all make mistakes. What matters is that you recognize it and change. Keanu added, it's never too late to learn, and every person deserves kindness, no matter where they're from or what they've been through. The waiter nodded, feeling a weight lift from his chest. He understood now. He had learned more in these few minutes than in his entire time working at that cafe. As Keanu got up to leave, the waiter turned to him with a newfound respect. Thank you for showing me this lesson. I'll never forget it. Keanu simply smiled. You're welcome. Remember, we're all connected by our humanity. With that, Keanu walked out of the cafe, leaving a trail of kindness in his wake, and a waiter who had been forever changed by one simple act of compassion. As Keanu stepped out into the bustling city, the cafe felt quieter somehow. The waiter stood behind the counter, a new sense of Awareness in his eyes he had been. Humbled, his heart opened by the kindness. He had witnessed from now on every customer would be treated with the respect they deserved, no more assumptions, no more judgment. Everyone he realized carried their own battles. The old woman too was affected by what had transpired as she walked out of the cafe. Her steps were a little lighter, her heart a little fuller. She wasn't just given a meal, she had been seen, heard, and treated with dignity for the first time. In a long while she felt like she mattered. Keanu's words echoed in her mind, "You matter more than you think." Though her circumstances hadn't magically changed, that simple reminder gave her something priceless: hope. It made her believe that maybe, just maybe, there were still good people in the world willing to extend kindness to those who needed it the most. As for Keanu, he continued his walk through the streets of the city, a peaceful smile on his face. He had been reminded once again of the power of small acts of kindness. No matter how famous, how busy life got, one thing was always certain: kindness could change the world, and it was a lesson that for him would last forever. Never underestimate the power of kindness in a world where people often feel invisible. A simple act of compassion can be the light they need. Whether you're a famous actor or just an ordinary person, we all have the ability to make someone feel seen and valued. Treat others with empathy and respect, because you never know how much your actions can change their life. Small gestures of kindness don't just help others, they can transform you too. Always remember, a little kindness goes a long way. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like, share, and leave a comment below. What's the kindest thing someone has ever done for you? Subscribe for more heartwarming stories, and hit the bell icon to never miss an update.